Hello, welcome to Who What Now Gaming, the podcast for consumers by consumers, where we ask the questions: Who are you? What got you into gaming? And what are you doing now? I am your host, Josh Stewart, and I am met today by a good friend of mine, somebody who has helped make this podcast a reality, and really been by my side through this entire thing. This is Noah. Welcome, Noah. How you doing?
Hey, I'm so pumped to be here, man. And I'm glad that you said that I'm a good friend, because yeah, we have been busting our ass for this thing, haven't we?
It has been a few months in the production, yeah.
Oh man, but we're here. We did it. Proud of you. It's going to be great. I am so happy to be here for episode 1. First episode of this new venture of yours. I'm absolutely pumped. All about gamers. Absolutely amazing. Now, what I want to know is, why the hell are you even doing this? Like, what was your feeling that made you think, I'm going to do this podcast? Because that's what I'm really curious about.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know why I thought this was going to be the best idea ever. No, honestly, dude, I spend so much of my time looking up like videos on like people playing games and like their experiences and stuff, and I'm a huge like podcast listener, and
I know
all of my searches, honestly, like they're great. And the episodes and like YouTube videos and stuff that I find are fantastic, but a lot of the times they seem to be like kind of oriented around a review of some sort, or like the idea of like whether the game is great or if it's going to be successful, or if people should buy it or not buy it, or play it or not play it. And I feel like we've kind of like lost that grasp on not whether or not a game is going to be successful, but if a game is good to you, like the consumer. And I really kind of had this idea that, what if instead of, just another podcast where somebody comes on here and is like, oh man, if you played, I don't know, Dragon's Dogma 2, it's going to be super successful because of these game mechanics and everything. No, it's like, I want to hear the raw story about why, I don't know, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was your favorite game from your childhood. Like, does it stand up today? Maybe. It's a good game. I love it. Is it my favorite game to today? Close, but no. It gave me such a wonderful feeling as a kid that it became my favorite game over the years. But you never really hear the stories about like why these games were so why they consumed people's lives so much.
Everyone has that first. It's not even your first game, but like your first game. Do you know what I mean? Like there's like a difference.
100%.
Like I like, you play games and then you have that game that like, whoa, and I think there are so many stories like that, and so many people who can you can't get them to talk about anything, but if you bring that up, they'll go forever about this game that they love, like, and I think that's absolutely so fantastic. For me, definitely like Mass Effect is the big one for me, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on, but like that's totally like what you said about Ocarina of Time. Mass Effect is so that for me. Like I played other games as a kid, I had other things, and then I played that game and I was like, oh, this is what it means to play a video game. And it just absolutely blew my mind. So man, to be able to hear more of those stories and hear how they connect to what people are doing, playing now, or what they are pursuing now. Absolutely fantastic. I love that idea. What
100%.
like
Yeah, I think a
yeah, go
lot of
ahead.
people have like a genre of game that they kind of like fall into,
Yeah.
that like is their go-to style of game. And I think that clearly there was like a game path that you took, like
Mm-hmm.
a set of games that you played that you were like, oh, this is my stuff. Like this is what I want to
Yeah,
play from here on out, you know?
totally.
And
Mm-hmm.
like when you talk to friends, or like, like a new game comes out, right, and you're like, guys,
Mm-hmm.
you heard about this game yet? And they're like, okay, well, I saw some reviews, I saw, whatever. And then like years down the line, you're like, guys, do you remember this game? And everybody's like, oh dude, it was so good, I remember getting stuck on, this level, or I got stuck in this, puzzle, and I couldn't figure out this stuff, whatever. It was like, there, like, when we were kids, there was no there was not a whole lot of like resources to find the answers to solve things in video games. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember, like I played the absolute shit out of Pokemon Red. And I
Oh, hell
remember
yeah.
playing that game so much and so long, to the point where like all of my Pokemon were like overpowered. Like I was verging on the edge of like my Pokemon not actually listening to me properly, because I didn't have the badges to like, hold up to their
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
listening
Mm-hmm.
like levels, and so but I got to the end of the game. I remember there was like a guidebook you could buy, and I didn't get it until like, years later. And
Mm-hmm.
and I remember like never actually completing the game, solely because I explored the entirety of the game, and I caught everything. But well, almost everything. But you I couldn't get that eighth, badge, because
Oh,
I didn't know until
yeah, you
later,
couldn't
like
Google it.
later in
Oh.
my life, that the final badge is in the starting city of the game. And I'm like, how the hell
Oh
would I
my
know
God.
just to go all the way back to the start? Like, you walk into the grass, you get a level like 5, Pidgey, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I'm over here rocking some like 70s, 80s and stuff. And I'm like, if I
Mm-hmm.
sneeze in the wrong direction, I take out like half the population of Pokemon over here. So I'm like, why would I go back to the beginning of the game? And it was like, I spent, a long time playing that
Yeah,
game, until
yeah.
eventually, I played enough of it where I was satisfied, and I moved on to another game. And it was like, it was
But
those moments where, I wasn't basing the game on whether the game mechanics were good, or, if
mm-hmm.
I could just
Mm-hmm.
spam, the A button, I could basically finish a match in no time.
Yeah.
And it was the feeling of playing this game and figuring it out that was like the memorable,
Yeah.
portion of this game. And I
Yeah.
feel like, when we watch these videos or podcasts and stuff, it's all review based, and I kind of
Mm-hmm.
want to change the algorithm now. I want to change it. I want to hear the deep dive stories. I want to
Yeah.
hear why Mass Effect like changed your perception of gaming altogether, and
Mm-hmm.
why it
Mm-hmm.
turned you into a gamer.
Yeah.
I want to know the fun stories, or the late nights. You just got done a full day of work, you're exhausted, you got your stuff done, all you want to do is sit down and, I don't know, play Call of Duty with the boys.
Yeah.
And you sit down and you're not running the game going, man, I really like the hip fire mechanic. No, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh dude, Jimmy thought he could dolphin dive off the top roof and land in the trash can and be fine, because he saw it on YouTube and then missed it and hit the ground. And we all died laughing. Like, I want to hear the stories. I don't give a shit about the
Yeah.
mechanics,
That's the Call of Duty I would play. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's so true, because, like, what are video games about? Anyways, they're about entertainment. Most of them, at least, are trying to like tell a story, create an experience. And I feel like we just don't, it becomes so much about performance. Like, oh, it doesn't run right, the frame rates are bad, or it's that the story doesn't match up to it's a sequel and it doesn't match up as good as the original, or
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't like the way that the shooting mechanics are different than my favorite game, and so it's trash. And it's all
Right.
these, like, it's all about these these kind of pieces of this game that is, but like, let's get back to reviewing, if you will, a game based on the experience that it gives you, like, overall. And like, what kind of, if you really just let yourself really lean into it, really give into it, especially if it's something that really connects with you, maybe the game that everyone else thinks is trash is the one that's going to fucking change your life. And I think that happened a lot when we were kids. There's so many stories you hear of people where they'll be like, oh man, I played the fuck out of this random Super Nintendo sports game and it literally changed their life. And everyone knows that sports games on the Super Nintendo were hot garbage for the most part. But that person, no, it was the thing for them. And I just think that there's so many good conversations to be had. And I think it can inform how we look at games going forward, which is why I think the structure of how you want to talk about these things is just fucking genius. Because, you know, we talk about why we feel the way we do about video games, and then how does that affect looking forward? Because I can tell you my experience playing Mass Effect literally is how I pick the games I play now. Like I really am mostly interested in video games that are similar to what Mass Effect gave me, or at least that's what I'm always going for. You know, I am, you know, I'm a father of 2 kids. I've got a lot going on in my life. I don't have just tons of time to game. So when I do, I'm looking for a certain experience. And so for me, it's not about the frame rates. It's not about the review scores. It's not about the critical acclaim. It's like, does this thing give me the experience that I'm so hoping for? And, you know, not saying that critical acclaim and ratings don't help. I'm sure they do, but there's just more to it for sure. And
Yeah, I actually I want to build off of that, because you just kind of made me think here for a second that I 1000% agree. I played Ocarina of Time so many times on the Nintendo 64 in my parents' basement. And you know, playing on this big box TV that we got, and I was just so immersed into this world where it was like my first experience in playing like an open world where like I could do whatever I want. If I went to you know, a temple and I couldn't beat it, I could just leave and go do other stuff for a while. Or you know, the only way that I would get better is that I would play and experience things and solve things and find things out. And you know, a lot of times I would solve issues completely by accident. For example, actually one of my favorite ones that I enjoyed, that gaming experience, that thing that really felt like filled me with that euphoric, you know, holy shit, I did it kind of moment. There's a big there's like a canyon where a bridge is out right before you get to Gerudo Village. And you, as you're riding Ipana, you come up to the bridge, it's broken. And I don't remember too much, but I think it was like somebody tells you that the bridge is like out, and you're like, well, obviously it's not there, you know. And I remember
game.
like, you know, yeah, you're like, well done, dude. And so, you know, I would leave Ipana there, and then I would walk up to the bridge. And if you ran to the bridge, the game would automatically make you jump, because in those games there was no jump button. You just, as soon as you hit a ledge at a certain, you know, speed,
oh damn,
you just jumped. Right.
Interesting.
So I would do this, and then he would like, you know, like leap of faith from like Assassin's Creed, you know, arms out, feet together, and you would dive so far down to the point where like the mechanic would stop tilting your character forward because you were falling for so long. And then you would hit the water, and then that water would take you like way back to like the like Hyrule area.
Oh,
right.
wow.
So you're now like in the main area, and you're like, dude, I have to now go all the way back, and I gotta, you know, call my horse again, you know. And so after a while, you know, just kind of getting bored running around trying to see if I can find things out or learn other things, because I'm like stuck, you know. And I didn't have a way to look this up. So then I was like, well, I wonder if I could like, you know, take the horse, like what would happen if I ran the horse as fast as possible at the bridge that's not there, and then just, you know, see if I could like maybe like get kicked from the horse and fall off, or if like the horse would go down in the water with me or whatever. And so I hit it, and then the horse jumped, and the horse jumped the entire gap. And I was like,
Whoa.
holy shit, that's how you were supposed to do it? I'm like shooting things. I'm trying to find like bridge parts. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm now on the other side, and I can now continue my quest. And now it was like I just opened a whole new door to a part of the game that I have not been able to get to.
You're like, how
And I was
many
like that.
other places did I like
The
not
amount of
just
things
take
that
the
I was
jump?
running into, yeah. The amount of times I'm trying to jump into things, I was just like, well, there's got to be something over here. And like the things that the game just doesn't tell you that you
Yeah.
eventually just figure out, and you feel like such a badass when you figure these things out.
Uh-huh.
I've
Uh-huh.
been chasing that
Yeah.
forever.
That's
I
the thing.
love
When you can Google every time you're stuck, it really takes away the sense of achievement of figuring it out. Now, I suck at video games, I feel like. So I'm never going to stop looking stuff up, but I totally like the times where I get it right before I'm reaching for my phone, and then oh, I did it. Like, man, you can't beat that. You can't beat it when you know it's not something that the game, it's not obvious, but you figure it out anyways. It's just, yeah, you can't beat that. And those are the stories that are absolutely insane, because again, so many other people, like, I got to watch some Ocarina of Time now, because now you got me curious, but so many people
Oh, it's fantastic. I loved it.
probably, half the people that played that game probably had such a similar experience where they're like, I've never jumped my horse before. How was I ever supposed to know that the horse would jump? And so they have that same story. How many times did they fall into that fucking river and have to reset every time? Because I mean, I know I played the Breath of the Wild Zelda, which obviously is a spiritual successor to the Ocarina of Time in
Fantastic.
So many ways. And man, I had some moments that feel like that, where I was just like, why do you, like, again, the games that when you fail make you like redo so much of what you worked to accomplish just to get back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not those. Sometimes it works, but I'm not sure that's exactly my thing. I'll just say that.
Dude, I'll tell you what though, the Legend of Zelda community,
Yeah.
like you have to have a passion
Yeah.
for like the Legend of Zelda franchise, to truly like, my opinion, appreciate the story, because there are points in the Legend of Zelda lore that you could only assume somebody took a bunch of topics, put them on a board, and then threw a dart at it. Because at one point, like Legend of Zelda, at right after the events of Ocarina of Time, everything splits into 3 major timelines. So the games
Wow.
that come out, you then have to figure out like which timeline did this fall under,
Oh God.
and it is insane, because what I think it comes directly after, in not necessarily chronologically, but like I think the next game that was developed was Majora's Mask, and that one is just a whole that's the beginning of a timeline in itself.
Oh shit! See, I
Where
did not
you
know this.
oh, it's deep. I mean, I don't think you can find a lore video on Legend of Zelda that is under maybe 30-40 minutes.
God damn.
It takes some time to go, and there's
So it's like
many
chaos
games.
at first glance. Like, no way this is gonna make any sense. But if you take the time and look to people who have, there is something to it, or is it truly just a little bit batshit?
No, so I think I would have to relook at it and re-educate myself on it, because I think it's been like a year or two since I've like truly watched like a full lore video. But I think if I remember right, it basically splits into 3 from the 3 pillars of the Triforce. So basically you have like the
Okay.
Ganondorf timeline, where like Ganondorf wins, and like all the havoc that reaches down, that timeline. Then you have the timeline for Link, which he I can't remember if it's Link's or Zelda's timeline that he goes back to the Temple of Time and reverts back to a child and then has a childhood and leaves with
Mm.
little, baby Epona, and that's where
Uh-huh.
you get like Majora's Mask. And then there's a third timeline which is like, I think, the opposite of the one I just said, so it's either
Mm-hmm.
Link or Zelda's timeline, where Link remains as an adult and continues on that way.
Wow.
So it's very complex and convoluted, but it is incredible. It is
Wow.
such an amazing story because Link himself, he's not the same Link, except
Mm-hmm.
for Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. Link is not the same Link in each game. Link
Yeah.
is like Link's like I don't even know. He's like it's a spirit or like a a reincarnation of, or kind of like how like the Joker is not really the
Mm-hmm.
Joker in each movie. He's more of like a
Yeah.
mindset, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
like each Link is not the same, but in a way spiritually they are. It's nuts, dude. It's a crazy timeline. It's a crazy story, but it's so good, man.
Mm.
Like it's absolutely fantastic. But it's those
Wow.
games that
Yeah.
really drew me into like my love for like D&D now.
Oh
Trying
yes, D&D.
I got a friend who's trying to get me into Pathfinder. I'm a little hesitant only because I started with D&D, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But like Baldur's Gate 3, an absolute god of a game.
Oh my
Dragon's
goodness.
Dogma 2, I just started.
Yeah.
So far, here or there, give updates maybe later in future
Mm-hmm.
podcast on my feels about that. But
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I love the open world
Mm-hmm.
like concept where it's a giant linear story,
Yeah.
but how you get there and what you do in what order is entirely up to you. And
Yep.
that is the gamer that I have become.
Yep. Oh,
With a
totally.
side
Yeah.
of Call of Duty, every so often you gotta,
Totally, totally. I'm so with you on that. Obviously, I my love for the story-driven games and the adventure and the companions um really brought me uh in that constant search for that type of experience. I discovered D&D as well, and I definitely can't wait to have more conversations about that on this podcast. And we are in each other's games, like we play a lot of D&D together now. And I mean,
yeah,
I highly recommend anyone who is a big fan of video games. Obviously, if you enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3, then you already like D&D and you just don't know it yet. So you definitely need to everyone should try playing a game of D&D. I
there are a
really do
lot of
think.
like subtle differences.
Mhm.
Like I have noticed that there are certain like spells or buffs or whichever you that are in Baldur's Gate 3 that are just
Yeah.
unparalleled. They're fantastic, almost necessary for your playthroughs, that
Mhm.
when playing like actual D&D,
Yeah.
not really that beneficial.
Yeah,
But then
very true.
there's also things in like builds that are like so good and so useful in like a D&D campaign that
Mhm.
really don't actually hold that well in Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
And in a way, I kind of like that a
Oh
lot,
yeah. Oh yeah.
because like even though it's not a direct comparison, the feeling of Baldur's Gate 3 is so good and the story
Mhm.
is so good.
Yeah.
It I was very hesitant to buy Baldur's Gate 3 in the very beginning,
Mhm.
and I didn't know if I wanted to spend the money for a game that was just kind of a D&D lookalike.
Yep,
And
totally.
hands down, so happy I bought it.
Mhm.
I think I've taken a brief pause right now because I started Dragon's Dogma 2.
Mhm.
Um, but I want to say I'm on my fourth or fifth playthrough
God damn.
of Baldur's Gate 3,
Wow.
and even like I am a dad of two, also,
Mm-hmm.
and a very busy individual. And we are at the point where my oldest is wanting to get into games and like play games with me. And
Mm.
so, I was
Get
like,
that Call
well,
of Duty.
yeah, dude. Well, we're working on. Listen, we're working. I downloaded Paw Patrol. We're working on game mechanics. Okay, we're working on just identifying what buttons do
Zombie
what at
mode
this
right
point.
now.
All right, yeah, it's insane. But then I had this idea. I was like, well, what if I played like Baldur's Gate 3 with her? I dropped all the, I took all the like the nudity stuff off, and I took
Yep,
the
yep, yep.
violent stuff down and all
Look
that
at
stuff.
that.
I mean, you got to do the parent thing
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, sometimes.
And so thank God for a lot of the skip mechanics. She'd be like, well,
Mm-hmm.
what did he have to say? I'm like, nothing important, don't worry about it. And and we're going through the very beginning of the game. If you haven't played yet, you crash off of a ship, and
Mm-hmm.
you find that basically the ship crashed. And there is, I don't know if a lot of people read the notes that you find, but there is a very uh, dark humor sense of funny that kind of
Mm-hmm.
happens
Mm-hmm.
right after you crash and you find Shadowheart, and you start kind of exploring things. You find some shells you can use to like sell, get a little coin like right at the beginning of the game and stuff. But there's also a guy who's just dead, sitting next to a broken boat. And the
Yeah.
letter basically says that he sends for this woman that he's like in love with, and he says, you know what, we're gonna escape and we're gonna get out of here and we're gonna go to Baldur's Gate and we're gonna like live our lives together. And he's like, I love you so much, and that this like huge passionate like love note and everything. And then he's like, I will pick you up like tonight, and from my boat. And then you're like, oh man, you did not make it. So like, and then you got to do like I think the funny thing is it's in the deep dive thought of it, because you're like, there is a character in Boulder or in somewhere else
Yeah.
standing at a dock waiting for her love to show up on a boat, and she's like, he doesn't love me. You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, man, sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh shit! Like this
it's
guy,
the
I don't remember that. Oh, I missed
yeah,
that
it's
shit.
so good. I've played the beginning so many times. It's like I have to pick it up every time, even though I know exactly what it says, because I'm like, poor guy, Like,
Oh man, that sucks. So like the crash, right when he was about to leave, the crash, like,
oh yeah, you can steal his materials and stuff to kind of help
holy shit.
your stuff out. You find the letter. I think he's even got some gold on him. And yeah,
Damn.
basically it's just wrong moment, wrong time kind of thing. He's loading up the ship, and the ship that you're on, the Nautiloid, crashes, and
My
it
God.
kills him instantly. You're just like, yeah, man, sorry.
Oops. Wow.
Dude, it's
That's
so
see,
good.
that's the storytelling. That's the attention to detail. And I think that's what that game scratched the itch that I mean, it's not an uncommon position. Many people say that Baldur's Gate 3 felt like what we always thought BioWare would become, the makers of Mass Effect. It felt like it was a BioWare game, like what BioWare, the trajectory it looked like they were going to be on with something like Mass Effect. And I still have hope. I have hope for some of their upcoming releases. Dragon Age coming out not too long. I really have hope for that maybe there'll be something. And they're still trying to reboot Mass Effect. So I'm not giving up on them yet, but my God, I just the ability for them to hit so many tenets of what makes a good video game. I just feel like so many video game companies, they do a few of them right, and that makes a great game. But to make an absolutely legendary game, you have to really hit so many of those, and I don't know if anyone's done it better. Some people, I think, would argue From Software in their genre is probably a comparable, Elden Ring is probably a comparable achievement. But that's a whole different style of storytelling. Talk about chaotic, extremely complicated lore. My God, you can find those videos just as long. I think I think there are literal books of information you can find in that game, to just like, if someone printed it all out, it would be volumes.
Oh, I believe
It's
it.
just unbelievable. I can't play those
Well,
games. They are terrible for me
let me
and my
ask you
abilities.
this. Yeah. Let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this the other day. Do you think, because we're at a point now where all these games are starting to come out, and they are starting to self-identify as like triple A or quadruple A, games. We had that one quadruple A game, was it Skull and Bones? And I personally, I want to try to be like, when games come out, I want to try to be like as non-biased as possible and stuff,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I've always had an issue with the way that when like a game comes out and people are like, check out the review, and I'm like, yeah, man, I don't feel like you should call it a review, because, like, break down the word, it's a reviewing of a game that just came out. Like, maybe say like first impressions,
Yeah,
like, this is my
yeah.
first impression of the game. I haven't had enough time to dive deep enough into the game to be considered a reviewing of the game.
Totally.
So, but Skull and Bones comes out, and Skull and Bones is probably one of the games that I have been looking forward to since, like, the very first announcement of it, which was like 2000, I want to say like 2012,
Yeah,
maybe 2015, somewhere
yeah.
in that area, right? And I was like, I'm holding on to this because it was advertised starting off as just an absolute grunt level, like, ship hand.
Yeah.
And the game was going to take you all the way to the Luffy style pirate king of the pirates, and you
Yeah,
were supposed to go from nothing to the ultimate pirate ever. And then
yeah.
the game releases, and it is a giant steaming pile of dog shit, where you are on a ship, and then, like, it doesn't even give you the chance to, like, get off the ship to go, like, get resources and stuff. You just grab resources from the side of your ship. Like, it becomes like a pirate ship simulator. And then they're
Yeah.
like, check out our battle pass. And then they're like, yeah, this is the first ever quadruple A game. And I'm like, for what? Like, this
Holy
game has
moly.
less story, less game mechanics, and less, like, anything than multiple games that have come out 20 years prior.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is like, how do you have the
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 ego.
the
My
guts,
goodness.
yeah, how do you have it to just to claim that a game is a quadruple A game, especially before release? Like, it's quadruple A to what, the people who made it? Like, yeah, I mean,
My
let's
goodness.
think about this. Super unpopular opinion, and I know, as a dad, you shouldn't say this, okay? But my kids are the best. They're amazing. They're fantastic. Do you know why? Because I created them. Do
Yeah.
you know what, maybe other people think? They don't. They don't
Mhm.
care. They're not their kids. They don't give a shit.
I mean,
So,
your
like,
kids are
as
pretty great.
perfect. Thank you.
I mean, they may not be the best because those are mine, but they're pretty close. So,
See, but I'm saying, like, to me, they are quadruple A. All right. But to
hmm
people who, like, interact with them, or the people who have to babysit them
oh, my
at
son is a
6:30 and get them
dick to
ready to
other
go to
people
bed.
sometimes.
Yeah. When it's bedtime, my kids aren't even ranking. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, get in bed.
They don't even
It's
rank
8 o'clock
to
at night. Their ratings change so often.
It's very fluid.
It is ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's like,
You can't, they should not be the ones to name their game quadruple A. It should be some other independent body that makes that determination. Like,
yeah, I also think your
it's
game
not
should,
quadruple A just because you say it is. Like,
right. Your game should be out for quite some time before
yeah.
it gets, like, a rating. Like,
hmm
at the game, the game of the year awards, right? Where Baldur's Gate took, like, what, like 7 awards,
Yeah.
right? They didn't come out and say, hey, just a heads up, this is going to be the best game you'll ever play in your life, period. They were like, hey, check this out. We were a small company, and then we got,
hmm
some extra funding from somebody who really believed in us, and we poured our heart and soul into a game so that it would be good and great and amazing for the consumer. And what
Yep.
happened?
And we let
It took
people play the
7
beta,
awards.
and they changed stuff based on the people who played the beta.
Yeah.
Like they listened to the people. Now you can't do that. You can't, they can take that too far, and I totally get, but they did it right somehow. Like they made such good choices.
But see, that's the thing. They took their time.
Yep.
Skull and Bones was announced like almost 10 years ago, or maybe more.
Yeah.
Like you're telling me you have had 10 at least years to create a game that barely holds up to the free games on PlayStation or Xbox. Like you don't, it is so unbelievably frustrating for like the podcast says, for the consumer. You've got all this this intentions to just deep dive into a story that is just blatantly not there.
Well, that's what I think really gets me, is that they had so much goodwill build up around this, because wasn't this was a project based on a section of one of the Assassin's Creed games originally, right? I forget what the game.
I don't know if it was ever confirmed, but yes,
there was. At least they felt like if you did so good in this little section of this much other stuff going on Assassin's Creed game, and now people are like, it's still better to go play that than this game.
Yes. Yeah, it's
I forget
100%,
which one. Black Flag, right? Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Which I have my own painstaking, gripes with.
I heard that it's like
we'll get
the ship stuff is good. The rest of it, well, meh. But the ship stuff apparently I've never played. Yeah.
The shorthand is that some may say, and I, in a way, very much agree, Assassin's Creed Black Flag would have been an amazing pirate game. If you took away all of the assassin aspect, you would have an amazing pirate game.
Yeah.
The same with one of my absolute favorite games, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Mm-hmm.
If you take away the assassin aspect, you have an amazing Norse Viking video game.
Yep.
The problem that I personally have with this is that Black Flag, even though somehow is the most popular Assassin's Creed amongst like all of their fan base, to me, unpopular opinion, comment at me, get at me, it's bullshit. Because the whole concept is the Assassin's Creed. And the start of the game, Edward shows up and hunts down a guy who's got some valuables on him, decides to go all pirated out, and then kills him, and then just takes his shit. And then's like, man, I bet you if I just continue this mission that he was already doing, I'll get more treasures. At no point was he like, man, that guy's got great values. I bet you if I kill him, I could just be him, And they're like, it's not no. And I'm pretty sure in the game, you even go to the island of assassins and they deny you. They say you are not, you will never be an assassin. And the whole game is you just trying to like prove yourself. But I don't even think the game ends with you like truly being accepted as an assassin in the Brotherhood. You're like an off-brand assassin. Like, you've got the skills. You're for a pirate, you're weirdly like agile and able to do like the assassin stuff. But like at no point do the Brotherhood like refer to you as part of the Brotherhood. They're just like, yeah, that's Edward. He just kind of sticks around, and like, so I'm like, why would you call it like, you know what I mean? Like, why are you calling it the Assassin's Creed when he doesn't even follow it because he's not technically, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
and it's kind of the same way, even though I hate talking bad on it, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, one of my
Yeah.
absolute favorite games. But I
Yeah.
am a
Same.
huge,
Love that
huge,
game.
huge fan of Norse, Norse culture and Norse mythology,
Same.
and to be
Same.
able to
Same.
play a Viking simulator
Yep.
was a dream.
It was.
But at one point they're like, hey man, we'll teach you how to jump off of stuff and not die. And he was like, yeah, that'll be really useful when I'm like, pillaging, villages and stuff. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's pretty much it. We're not going to really help you out further from that. And then, yeah, you do some discoveries, but the whole story is Avar Wolfkist, who ventures to find his path in the
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
while dealing with the politics of Norse culture and the world around it, and bringing everything to England, and like working your way through like Sussex and Wessex, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's an amazing game.
Yeah.
But once again,
It's not an
not technically
assassin.
an assassin.
Yeah, it's not really an Assassin's Creed game. They created a pretty fucking amazing Viking world and game, but and then they put in these like NPCs that are assassins, and they teach you like exactly what you said, and that's it. And again,
Actually, kind of. I think there's only
possible.
two, right?
Yeah, there's like
Do
the
you
two
remember?
guys. Yeah, the two guys
There's
with
just the two guys, and
yeah,
the one guy's just an absolute asshole.
yeah,
So, like,
yeah. And I think like
yeah, I don't even think there's other assassins in the game.
I wish honestly, I wish it just wasn't. I wish they had just left that out and just made it, because the issue is people have so many, you hear so many people talk shit on Valhalla, and their biggest thing is because it's not, it's an Assassin's Creed game in it, but it's not. And it's like, I agree with you. I like the non-Assassin's Creed ness of it. I like that it's just a
I do too. I
fucking
love it.
good
It's one of my favorites.
Viking games. I mean, I don't often complete games, and I finish that fucker. So like that tells you like I liked that game.
100%.
Like it was good.
Yeah.
And I just was like, damn, I wish that they would just, like, I understand marketing and stuff. They know more people will buy it if it says Assassin's Creed on it. And that's where it's like, again, this is where it's like, okay, this is not really for the consumer. It's for the consumer in the sense of let's manipulate the consumer to buy something and then not have it be what we kind of advertise it to be. It worked for me with Valhalla because it was I kind of, because of their history with like Odyssey, I had a feeling that was how it was going to be. Because honestly, if I had thought it was going to be a full-on Assassin's Creed style game, like I haven't bought Mirage, I haven't bought the the new stuff.
Oh, I haven't either.
Like
No.
I'm not interested in it. Like I wouldn't have bought it
Yeah.
if I was hoping it would be what it was.
Yeah, I
Hot
really
take.
think the last time that I think their last like actual like Assassin Creed game would probably be and correct me, but I would say was probably the 3 games with Ezio Auditore. And
I think you're right.
And because you start at the very beginning, and then you go to his like midlife, and then you go to where he is like hiding the apple of Eden.
Mhm.
And like it was an amazing story. It's still my favorite like story path through all of the games. But then you get like Assassin's Creed Rogue, which he kind of is an assassin, like from the Assassins like Brotherhood, but also he's technically a Templar, and that kind of screws everything up. And then that leads into Connor's story. And Connor was he was Native American who then wanted to save his people by using the Assassin's Creed techniques, and be kind of in a way became his own assassin. And so even then, probably wrong. I don't remember if he was technically a part of the Brotherhood, or like he was like accepted in from. No, because he did the ceremony.
Yeah.
With the old guy.
Mhm.
So technically, yeah, he was an assassin. So, and that one was also absolutely fantastic. But Rogue, Black Flag, Valhalla, not assassin games. I mean, they're assassin games, but they're not assassins.
Yeah. Odyssey, Origins, they all took, which I mean, I
Oh
think
yeah, and that one, yeah.
they were intentional. It was intentional for them to go that way, but I just feel like you didn't, I understand why people say they didn't love them in the fact that they weren't Assassin's Creed games. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I like them better. I like, especially like the Odyssey and Valhalla. I played both of those, and I do think that they're
Yeah.
better. I think those games are better for not being so closely related, but it also, I totally get the concern and the feeling of like you're abandoning your core premise and your core structure, which games have to evolve. But I don't know. I just feel like, again, part of me wishes we could have just had them. I would have loved to have seen like the Valhalla be its own start of its own franchise rather than being just a stopping point in a path. Because I'd love to see more. I'd love to do more Viking shit. Like,
100%. But and I will have to say, I think it is an amazing, like, those games are really great, like, pirate, type of game, or a Norse Viking like type of game. But I think Ubisoft, their like style of video games is very fun and unique, and the, like, the graphic designs and the way that stories play out, and they do open worlds very well. In my opinion, I've always enjoyed their open worlds because it really does feel like a vast open world.
Yep.
Maybe if I were to disagree with myself at all, probably Black Flag, only because of those times where I would just open the sails and just autopilot because I got to get to the other side of the map. And so I just like sit back and go do something else while I sail and listen to sea shanties for like a half an hour, but when it comes to like open worlds, I really think they nail it. And I think that if they did like a Valhalla type of game through a different company who doesn't have the rights to that, like, graphical design or play style, I don't think it would have been a good game, and
No, I
because
agree with you.
Ubisoft makes it so unique to their brand, and it is fantastic.
Yeah,
the way
it really
they
worked.
do it.
It really worked. It felt so good. Because there are times where I definitely that style of the Ubisoft kind of style is not always my favorite, but I think it's all about, when style, plot, subject line, sometimes they just, and I just felt like with Valhalla, it felt so good. There's games that I can say that maybe aren't the highest level of like critical acclaim, but for some reason they felt really good. Another one that really did that for me was Far Cry 5, when you're out killing the fucking cultists. Like, something about the way that
Far
game,
Cry 5,
the story, that's the one where you're in the middle of the wilderness and there's this cult, a backcountry cult, and you take them down.
Oh, is that the one where you start the game and you're basically like a cop or like a deputy or something, you're with the cops or whatever, and then the guy, I remember that. Yeah, that was a good one. I like that one.
I mean, it just felt good to play. There was something about the environment and how the mechanics of the game just worked, and the way the guns in the game just felt in regards to how it just. And it was where it's just like, if somebody else had made this game and it was with a different engine with different mechanics but the same subject line, I don't think it would have worked. It was that trifecta of like, this game isn't like the best game I've ever played, but my God, I played the fuck out of that game. Like, and I played with friends. I brought friends into my game. Like, dude, I would play that with you right now. Like, I still would go, I would load that shit up and play it now.
I think it's still on my PlayStation, to be honest with you.
It's so good. Like, it just felt good. And that whole vibe of like just taking over territory little by little. I mean, it kind of happens in the Valhalla game as well. I love that idea of slowly just taking them out, and then at the end you hit the big guy. that build,
Okay,
just ooh, I love it.
so if you love that so much, let me ask you: have you ever played? Um, what was the first? What's the first game? It's Lord of the Rings. I think it's Shadow. Oh yeah, Shadow of Mordor is the first game, and then Shadow of War is the second
Oh,
game.
you know, I have heard of
Have
those.
you ever played those?
I started the first one. It was like one of the first games I ever got for my PlayStation when I bought a used PlayStation from GameStop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was too much too fast. And I have not returned. But I have
I would, yeah,
I
I
should
would
try it out.
suggest. Shadow of Mordor is fantastic, but
Ooh.
with the game mechanic that you were just describing,
Yeah.
Shadow of War
Yeah.
is so unbelievably good. I loved that one.
Mm,
that is honestly a game that I will return to
yeah.
at least once a year
Yeah.
and play through it. The mechanic is so unique to me that it just the way the game plays and
Mm-hmm.
the kind of like, I don't know if it's technically AI, but you know there's a system in place where as you are playing, I think his name is like Talion, I don't remember, something like that. But
Fantasy name, dude.
yeah, so he then you find these like strongholds,
Yeah.
right? And you're trying to take down a lot of like the dark forces. But then you have like the head honcho of that area. But
Mm-hmm.
each head honcho has like captains. And depending on the like threat level of that region, you
Mm-hmm.
will have like multiple captains.
Oh
So
damn.
you will go around, each of those captains will have bodyguards. And then those
Uh
bodyguards are in charge of others around them. And so
uh-huh.
while you're playing the game, the AI, I'm just going to call it an AI because I don't know what it's actually called.
Uh-huh.
But the AI, mechanic,
Yeah.
each time you die, time advances. So when you die, maybe there was a captain who, got into a scuffle or whatever with some other like grunt like player.
Yeah.
That captain or that bodyguard can die. The
Mm-hmm.
person, the Ulrich that kills him
Yeah.
takes his place. So now he's a different
Oh.
character.
Yeah.
He's got different weaknesses, different strengths. And then as you're going through, you eventually get this like domination ability. So
Uh-huh.
then you can almost kind of work against them, and you can like dominate two of the bodyguards, so that when you eventually get strong enough and you want to take on this like threshold of captains, you go hunt down the captain, and the captain comes out. You do whatever you need to do to like take out some of the guys. You're all stealthy and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
then he finally comes out trying to figure out why everybody's dead. When he comes out to call you out for the fight, if you dominated two of the guys that follow him, they will turn on him mid fight,
Wow.
and now it's 3 against 1 in your
Holy
favor
shit.
instead of the opposite. So then it got to a point where like I would just try to test like how far I could really take this.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
would go through and I would dominate all the bodyguards, then I would dominate all of the captains, and then I would start the final like siege to take
Yeah.
on that region. So when it would come in, I'd storm the castle, and then I'd take off the first layers, and then as you're supposed to fight the captain is now under your domination, so then he will turn on those around him, and now
God
he's a part of
damn.
yours, and now he's storming the siege as well. And so then you get all the way to the final captain, and like you're in a room where you're fighting the boss, and if
Uh-huh.
you dominated his captains, they will then fight with you to fight him, making the fight easier.
Wow.
But then you can dominate them, you can fear that, or you can like scare them and stuff and bring them
Uh-huh.
down in levels. You can basically like mess with their minds so much to the point where they drop so far in level that they like can't even speak. They're like brain dead. you know, and sometimes you'll just be
Damn.
playing and you'll be trying to do something, and a captain, unbeknownst to you, will be hunting you down. So you'll be like stealthing through an area, and then he'll walk out and he'll be like, "Hey, remember me? I don't know, you stabbed me through the face the last time we fought, but they rebuilt me, and now he's got this steel plate over his face. So now you can't defeat him in the same way that you defeated him the last time." It is such an
Wow.
amazing game
Damn.
mechanic.
Holy moly, that seems so like ahead of its time. That sounds like a game that's coming out like in 10 years.
I genuinely don't, dude.
Holy
In
moly.
all honest opinion, honestly, do not feel that it gets enough love.
Yeah.
It is such an amazing game.
Oh man, I
Like
gotta
the
try it.
time the time that they had to put into this game to make these mechanics work, it's incredible.
Damn, and
The
talk
story
about
is
like
decent, but like
yeah, but that's where it's
the
like
gameplay
almost the
is so
story
good.
doesn't matter because you're
No,
making your own story. You're carving
yeah,
your
the
own path.
gameplay is
This
so
is all
good.
going on in your head. You're like, I'm a fucking badass. I'm the fucking, you know, king of the
100%.
mountain dude. Like this guy's, and you're thinking about like how like just imagining actually being there and fucking with you. And suddenly it's like it's now the game is the canvas for your brain to actually like to build up this just to really just go for it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Damn.
dude. I think even at some points, like they have uh this like in-game fight club mechanic where you can
Mm-hmm.
take some of the guys that you've dominated and that follow you, and then to get them to like kind of level up, you send them in the pit, I think is what they call it. It's just called the pit. And you pit them against other um other captains and bodyguards that are also trying to like level up,
Yeah.
and then you basically just watch them fight it out. And if your guy dies, that's it. You lost him. He's done.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to go find somebody else to dominate. But if he wins, he levels up, gets even
Damn.
stronger. So now when you go to like storm places, you now have an even stronger like Urukai to like
Yeah.
roll with you. It's
Damn.
just talking. I'm gonna have to start this game again. It's hands down one of my absolute favorite games, and it's like, and it's all open world, man.
Yeah.
It's so good,
Damn.
so good.
You're gonna go play
But
that,
I did,
and I'm gonna go play Far Cry 5.
yeah. um, I did have a. I wanted to kind of bring this back a little bit,
Yeah.
because I'm curious about your opinion on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that older games, because they've spent all this time and it was for the gamers, the consumers, the diehards of the games, that
Mm-hmm.
they would create these games and they would put their heart and souls into those games to so that genuinely the end goal of the game was to bring joy to the people playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what made the game so good. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think that we've kind of edged into a point where these companies have grown so large that they are almost taking shortcuts to ensure that they make the money back? Because this kind of came up when I was thinking about like Call of Duty,
Yeah.
right? Call of Duty has become so big
Mm-hmm.
that their last game was a bit of a disappointment to me.
Yeah.
It was one of those games where like, Call of Duty was the thing where like after work, I get home, get the stuff done, be a parent, get the kids into bed, and then I sit down with some coworkers and we just run a few games. We
Mm-hmm.
talk shit, we laugh, it's a good time.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it slowly started morphing into like like you get to the point where like, hey, here's an unfinished, not complete game for the same price as a game that is completed and in its entirety. And then they're like, hey, if you pay us like $30-$40 extra, we'll give you the maps that you had in all the other games. And then we're not going to actually change anything. it just looks better because, you know, the new game graphics are better and the guns aren't different, but we are going to have some pay to, you know, have better weapons type of thing. And it's kind of getting to this point where it's like, hey, if you want to be really, really good at a game, pay us the money. And I
Mm,
think it's kind of bringing down the community of people who are not full-time streamers, who are not, you know, students who have like an entire summer off,
yep,
or,
yep, yep.
you know, people who are like, it's bringing down the casual, you know, uh you know, older, you know, parent gamers kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
because like, you know, we don't have that kind of time to sit down and really bust out a Call of Duty
Oh,
game. Like we just
totally.
want to
Oh,
sit down
totally.
and play like a few games, you know, between the time that I've eaten dinner, put the kids to bed, and have to go to bed myself,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
gotten to the point where like I'm starting to see a lot of games kind of turning into money grabs
Oh yeah.
instead of, you know, games that are for the consumer's enjoyment, to the
Mm-hmm.
point where I think the money grab is almost becoming too much, where the quality of the game is tanking.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I totally agree. I feel like the you know, the consumer has become the you know, the it, to me it all kind of comes back to, you know, this whole thing with like when social media became big and the consumer became the product. You know, we'll make these websites for free, but we'll shove them full of ads. So that's how we make our money. And so the consumer looking at the ads and staying in on the site, you know, and I think that viewpoint of consumers being the product has kind of poisoned entertainment in general. And I think video games are probably victim of that more than anyone else anywhere else. In that it's about less about, and I think some studios do this more than others, obviously, but it's like, how can we release a game in a way that gets the most money from this consumer, rather than saying, how do we release a game that is so good that more consumers want it, you know, and that we can't keep that you know, flying off the shelves, proverbial shelves, if you will, you know, like
Yeah.
why, you know. And I do think there are some studios, you know, we talk about a Baldur's Gate 3, that there was a there they had a different view and they had a different approach, and you know, that game cost so much more money than a lot of other games to make, and yet they charged the same amount in the end. And you know what?
Yeah,
They have made
I
a fuck
will.
ton off of that. You know?
Yeah, I think, just as, you know, a show host, I think I do have to at least jump in on this one.
Yeah.
I think Baldur's Gate 3 was funded by like by like somebody else, and I think their company doesn't have like as many people,
Yeah.
but or like in comparison to like other companies. But then you get like, you know, the developers of Call of Duty, who have so many employees
Mm-hmm.
and so many layers. Do you think that maybe the reason that the quality is tanking so much is because they're almost getting to a point where they need to find almost scam like ways to milk every last penny that they could possibly get out? Because I mean, think about it, they have to pay all
Yeah.
of these employees and all of
Mm-hmm.
these like expenditures and stuff, to the point where like, you know, maybe, you know, I'll admit it, maybe I'm wrong, maybe, you know, they are trying to make a good quality game, but financially they almost have to make a shit game so that they have the
Mm.
ability to pack it full of so many microtransactions that they can afford, you know, the
Yeah.
money that they need to make back on the game, you know.
Yeah. But that's when you think
Does that make
about,
sense?
yeah, totally. But that's when I think about the fact that, well, how much is their CEO? and their CFO making? Like, what level of bonuses and paychecks are they getting? Do they
Yeah,
have to? Do they have to be making multi-million-dollar paychecks? Like, do we
yeah, you're
have to?
right.
And that's where that's where we start down this really quite bunny trail that maybe we don't want to go down in episode 1. But
Yeah, I think maybe I'm probably looking.
but
I'm just
I
I'm trying to be
I
positive about the game.
I think that there
Because
is. I think you're right that a game like Baldur's Gate 3 is a different animal in a lot of ways, including its structure behind it. I totally agree. I still do think that there are lessons that developers as a whole can learn from saying, make a good game and the money will come potentially. I think that there is something to be said for that. Because I do think that you're right. I do think that there is I think the way you said it is so true. It almost feels like scam level of manipulation of people's wallets after you already spend all the money on the game to begin with. And I do think that it is predatory and that we do have to,
yeah,
but I hope that if more games come out that are just good but are also successful and make money, maybe we can get back to that golden age kind of viewpoint of just make a good
yeah.
game. Um
You know who I think is on the right page.
what's that?
I'll tell you.
Tell me.
The people who made Helldivers 2. And I
Yeah.
know that you are a huge fan of Helldivers 2.
Yeah, I just
Being
got
that
my
you are
email
the
from them and
only.
they will not help
Oh,
me.
did you?
They emailed me back and
Oh,
they said, cannot help you. And I said, well, thank
no
you.
way.
Thank you. And thank PlayStation for just taking my $60 donation for the deluxe version of the game that I will never be able to play.
Oh, for those listening, Noah is legitimately the only person on this planet who is unable to play Helldivers 2 from day one. We have been trying every possible. You rebuilt your PlayStation what, like
Yep.
6 times?
Yep. Reinitialized. I
And like,
deleted the game,
oh my
rebought the
God.
deluxe version to get a full, fresh copy. Some sort of corruption has gone on.
Yeah, it's the only person who has not been able to play Helldivers 2. And what an absolute disaster that
Yeah.
was. But
But
I will say, circling back,
yes.
as a game,
Yeah.
they did fantastic. They created a good game. There's a
Mm-hmm.
huge community that follows it. And the
Mm-hmm.
only issues that people were really having an issue with was that, the servers weren't big enough. And it was
Yep.
just solely because this tiny little company did not expect this
Yeah.
many people to be into their game. And
Yeah.
they had to up the cap by what, like 3, almost 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time I personally checked, I think they raised it to like 850,000, like spots on their servers and stuff. It's incredible.
Wow.
And honestly, good on them.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations to them and their team. They created an extremely entertaining game,
Mm-hmm.
and they are absolutely killing it out there. um
I just
but
think it
yeah,
says a
it's just
lot that these smaller studios that have to take a lot more time or just have a lot less money are the ones that were putting out the games that people actually really love and want to play and that go, viral, if you will. That says something, and people should be
yeah,
looking at that, because why
yeah.
is it that Call of Duty, with its massive, huge corporation behind it, you know, people are so disappointed, and definitely new players are not being attracted, and then you have Helldivers 2 from this tiny little studio that is gangbusters. Like, come on, like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I also think Call of Duty's kind of got their hand in the FOMO pot, the fear of missing out
Yeah,
communities.
yeah,
Where, like, I mean, I'll admit, the only reason I even bought the last game was because I have such great memories of
mm-hmm.
playing like, late night games with friends,
Yeah,
and those just really funny like interactions and stuff that happened. And I'm like, well, if the game is trash and I don't want to play it and I don't buy it, then I'm also missing out on those really funny
Yeah.
moments that I have
Yeah,
playing Call
exactly.
of Duty with my friends. And so I bought it. Now, who's the fool? Me, because my friends also had the same thought and didn't buy it.
You're
So
like,
then
they
I
were
was
like, nah,
like,
dude, we're
well,
just gonna play the old one.
yeah, they were like, yeah, we're just gonna play the. I was like, no, okay, that makes sense. Actually, I don't know why I bought this game, but and then like I bought it and then I felt bad for buying it, so I was like, well, I gotta play it because I purchased the damn
Yeah.
thing, and it's like, yeah,
Oh shoot. Yeah.
whatever.
Been
But
there.
hey, yeah, Noah, an absolute delight having you on the show today. Thank you so much for making the very first episode of Who What Now Gaming.
First
What
episode.
it is. This is. I'm so excited.
Oh hell yeah, dude.
This is going to be so much fun. Something I'm absolutely going to look forward to every week.
I am so excited to, as much as I'm
It's
happy to be on, I can't wait to just listen and hear the other people you have come on and the stories. I can run my mouth, but I love to listen and take it in too. I'm so pumped, man. So excited for what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'm gonna re-listen to. I hate the sound of my own voice, so we'll see what happens there. I might
I'll
have
let
to
you
get
know,
somebody to
dude.
re-listen and give
You've got
me,
it going on. I've told you that
information.
before. You've got a very listenable voice, if that's even a word. I don't. You're good. There are some people where I go to start listening to their podcast
Maybe.
and I'm like, no, I can't do it because of the voice only. You're good. I have a high
Yeah,
low tolerance for weird voices, so you're fine.
yeah. I think it's gonna be one of those things where I'm gonna try to make it my superpower, the ADHD and the being neurospicy. Gonna try to use it to my
Mm-hmm.
advantage so I can, use this platform to just talk about the things that I love and are interested in, and most and foremost, man, I want to hear those stories, man.
Yeah.
I love, give me the backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Love the backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this your favorite stuff?
Yep.
I want to hear it.
I can't wait.
I took a note here I took a note here.
Mm-hmm.
D&D,
Yeah.
you're a huge fan.
Yeah.
I definitely want to do another episode where we just talk about D&D
Oh
stuff.
hell
I think
yeah.
it's going to be absolutely incredible. And
Oh my goodness.
and
Talk about me
point,
as a gamer. Me as a gamer is a tabletop RPG gamer more than anything else. So definitely would love to come back and talk D&D with you. Absolutely.
all right.
You got it, man.
Well, Noah, is there anything that you would recommend that maybe I check out? I want to start kind of broadening a lot of my gamer horizons, whether it be TTRPGs, video games, maybe shows that have become, were from video games. Like, give me something that I can look up and broaden my horizon.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say right now I would really like it if you would show up to our next D&D session and see what I have for you there. That's my biggest recommendation.
Yeah, I did not pre-warn you about that one on there. So, but
I honestly, so much of what I like, my biggest recommendations I've already talked about. Far Cry 5. If for a video game that just feels really good, go for it. Mass Effect, if you haven't played those in a while, always give those a try if you want to just get into the story. But yeah, those are my big ones. And yeah, if people want to find me, I'm on the YouTubes. Sometimes I read articles sitting in my chair just like I am now. A lot of nerd stuff, a lot of anything in the gaming tech space. I like fiddling with gear as well, as Josh will know very well at this point. So
yes,
yeah, I'm on YouTube. NC Chapman, Nerdy Noah Reads is the name of the series. If you search for either of those, you'll probably find me. Yeah.
Yes, please
Self
check them out.
right out there.
Yeah, you've sent me one of your videos before, and I very, very, very much loved everything about it. It is, I do not like reading, period.
Yeah.
But really, honestly, like listening to someone break down a true like article and giving like actual updates going on in like gaming industries and communities and stuff was it was very, very informative. I loved everything about it. You did an amazing job.
Well, thanks,
And
dude.
I really truly do look forward to seeing more of your videos. And yeah, if you haven't already, please, please, please go check them out. If you want to follow me, I am on Instagram at Phoenix Stewart, and I will eventually at some point get the Discord page going up and out, and
Oh, I'll
I'll
be all
eventually
up
have
in
like a
that
Facebook
too.
thing. I would love to. I post questions that I would love to, discuss here on the podcast, and I would really, really like, some of the opinions of the consumers, seeing that that's what this whole deal is about.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, yeah, please, please go check out Noah, and yeah, we will see you on the next one.
Awesome. Bye bye.
See you later, Noah.